Okay, well, welcome everyone. We're very excited to have you guys here for day one of our two-day workshop, two-part workshop, Clarity and Fundability Foundations. And I love the tagline that we came up with, which is, if they don't get it, they can't fund it. That was the story of my life a couple of years ago until I think I really stopped blabbing on and finally just got to, the heart of what is it that I do and what do I need? So I want to welcome Jordan Saunders, who is my partner here together with we're working on the Resource Key and the Exceptional Leaders Network partnership. And this is actually our first offering together. So I'm really excited. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you. Welcome everyone that is joining us. For me, this is very personal because like May had described for me, my experience was going to these a lot of different networking events and sharing my story or my pitch and watching people's eyes just glaze over in boredom. And until I was at this week-long event, and one conversation changed my approach to how I introduce myself and pitch myself. A woman, she was investor, and she said to me, honey, next time you talk about your company, I want you to start with the one thing the person you're talking to can instantly connect with. And that's why having something like this today is so important, because she gave me a framework, and we have come together to be able to provide this framework for you all so that you all can have those moments where people instantly get it within the first 60 seconds. So that's a little bit about myself.
I love that. I'm going to add to it. I am also a speech language pathologist, as Jordan is. And I found myself going to these really high level networking groups where we have CEOs and execs and executive consultants. And I would stand up and introduce myself and blabber on, as I mentioned. And at the end of it, people would come up to me and say, oh, you're a speech therapist? My son has autism, and can I ask you some questions? And I was like, of course you can. And would you be interested in funding my company? Like they hadn't heard any of the rest of it, and they still had no idea what I was doing. So I want to streamline you to getting it out clearly, and getting it out quickly. And this way you can move on to the most important piece of the reason why you're there, or whatever you're doing in marketing. So we're going to move on to the good stuff. Wanted to share that this is not a sit and get, and so we want people to be involved. We do have someone who has volunteered, and she's going to go through the process as an example company with us, and hopefully be one of our first companies to really move through and have some positive experiences with this. But we also want you to try this along with us, and so you'll have access to the handouts, and we'll be able to work through this together. And then there is homework tonight, which is not a lot, but it's something that we can build on together tomorrow and for the second session. All right, so we have our little housekeeping pieces here, and let's see, we're going to go to the next one, which is how do you stand out? And so we're just going to do a quick check-in. If you were to pitch your business to an investor, someone who's ready right now, how confident are you that they'd really get it? Like, oh, I know what you can do, or I know what you do. And I think that's really important. You just ask yourself that, because I think a lot of times we focus on the wrong things when we're getting ready to do something, and that might be our physical presentation, all of making sure we have all the information, and we're not focused in on, can we get this in under 30 seconds? And so that's what we're really wanting you to be honest with yourself about, which is really hard. I have to say that. And even with this, Jordan and I, we had to get very succinct on what this event was for. So this is going to be something that's going to be valuable to you, hopefully, for all of your marketing. I'm going to pass this over to Jordan to tell us why.
Yeah, so we always talk about the 23 trillion disability market, and your business may sit in one of these overlaps. So there's more than 24 high growth markets that overlap. And when you are speaking to it could be from like speech or voice tech, gaming, all of these different markets overlap the disability market. And when you're speaking to investors or people or partnerships, they're surrounded by different possibilities. So the ideas that rise to the top when you're speaking to them they're the ones that they grasp immediately. So that's why clarity is so important, because investors do not have the bandwidth to or take the time to research and look for you. The market is huge when we talk about the disability market. So really honing in on where is it that you fit in within the disability market. Your work has real world shaping potential, but when your message lands quickly and confidently, people can get it. And so they lean in. So the question that we like to ask is, how do you stand out? Because being able to differentiate yourself from others is critical. So these are just a few of the markets that overlap the disability market. Some of these may look familiar to you all, but when we're talking about the disability market, it's innovation. It's that invisible layer. It's the kind that quietly does shape what's happening next and what's happening now. So speech and communication, for example, when we think of that market, it could be AI, artificial intelligence captioning, or live transcription, real-time translation. So all of those are rooted in some type of accessibility. Voice technology, we see that a lot. That is even bigger now with Siri, or you think of voice-driven systems we use daily. And that is built into how people interact with the technology. You may have gaming. Gaming is also another overlap, and that could be, let's say, adaptive controllers, or maybe you have inclusive interfaces. The other area that people may not even think about is sports tech. There's advanced prosthetics, smart wearables, performance analytics. So that's why it's really important when you're saying disability market, that could mean speech and communication, voice technology. So it is also too where it's the opportunity to be able to get that clarity, because it is the infrastructure of how we live, work, and play. And it's helping to drive to technology of what's next. So that's why investors, if you're talking investors or even partners or customers, they need to understand the entry point in seconds from language that they're able to resonate with, because sometimes there's language that's more technical, and that may not be language that is translating over to maybe your everyday customer. When we have conversations sometimes with clients, it's really looking at what is your wedge to be able to get in, right? So maybe your product or your service overlaps all four of these areas, but you have to pick one to be able to see where the impact lands fastest and has the most power. And that also too will allow you to be able to translate into a clearer messaging. Oh,
Gotta
let's see.
unmute myself.
Oh,
Okay, so let's go to, we have someone here who's part of the audience participation, but she has already agreed that she would like to be a part of the active activity. So I'd like to welcome Stacy Neustadt.
Thank you. So I'm Stacy Neustadt. I'm also a speech language pathologist. My company is called Making Sense of Autism. And man, number 3 is a great one, a great question, because that idea of clarity is not clear for me yet. We started our company, well, it started a long time ago, but we started really marketing in 2019, thinking that we were just going to educate people on how the autistic brain works, because it was a passion of mine. It's a passion of our founder, who's autistic. And we thought, okay, this is enough. People are just going to want to learn that. And we learned quickly that is not what people want to learn. So it wasn't solving any sort of problem. So we have gotten some clarity that focusing on assessments is where we need to start. Because in our mind, we're like, no, we have to teach you how the brain works and then you can do the assessment. But the world doesn't want that. They want the answer first. They want the assessment. And I was just in the car and I was just thinking, because I was listening to the guy who does StoryBrand, and I still have all these ideas of like, I want to do this, I want to do this. And so I have to constantly go back. We are solving the problem of how to view autistic individuals in a humanizing way and how to interpret what we're observing, whether it be the single words they say, whether it be the nonverbal communication that they have, whether it be them just not achieving their goals. So our assessment basically solves that problem for SLPs, OTs, teachers, psychologists, any professional that has to do an assessment and wants to do it in a neuro affirming way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I love that you are also in the process right now of listening to other resources and things like that. And I think we should always be doing that. I just think being a lifelong learner is so important. And something like this is pretty foundational. It's not really changing too much, but getting different perspectives is always helpful. So kudos to you. And I'm so glad that you're a part of this together with us, Stacey.
Thanks.
All right. So Jordan and I came up with a fake company. This will be our next venture. So it's called Adapt Tech, and we're going to use this as an example to go through. So our first attempt is we make adaptive swimwear for everyone who needs accessibility. And we thought that was great, right? That's pretty general and includes everybody. And so we feel like everybody kind of starts here. We can help everyone. And that's the first level. We call that the confusion state. And I've had a couple of companies and I've definitely done this. Well, of course, everyone's going to need Yap Guru. Of course, everyone's going to need exceptional ed. Of course, you just think that it's just something that's pretty universal. But it actually is confusing when it is too large. And, when we think of these big brands like, say, Coca-Cola, right? Everybody needs a Coke. But now we have all these people that are very health conscious. And so, this general statement is not going to apply. And then like the Nike, just do it. I love that one. As a matter of fact, just do it. Like we all need to do it, but there are a huge population that never wear sneakers, and so we have to come up with a way that we can really identify our audience and they go, oh, I need you, Stacey. I need what you're doing. Okay, so we want to move you from this early stages through this stage where you are clearly identifying who your audience is and what you do, and then that makes it very fundable quickly. Okay, so I wanted to bring you to our shared Google Doc, and so you should have received that in the email, and I'm going to share my screen for that one now, and so you can see what that looks like. So you should be able to click on that and come right into this document. It's called Visibility and Funding Workshop. And over here, if I close this out, this is what it would look like. So this is the first tab. And I just want to make sure that you know that you're going to come up here and we're going to click that. And now you see the internal tabs. So this is a Google Doc and it is shared with you, but you cannot do anything to it to affect it. Okay, so it's something that you could just read only. So I'm going to bring this up so you have it here. And we're going to start here. This was the first slide. And then we have the workshop slides are available. And so if you want to get a copy of what we're showing you right now, you can, and they are accessible. And then we have the fundable readiness checklist mini tool, which is what we're starting on now. So I'm going to open that up here. And right now what I'm showing is that first tab. It says Fundable Readiness Foundation Mini Tool. And it breaks down a rubric where you're going to go through these different questions and you're going to rate yourself. So the instructions are: use this checklist, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 is no, 2 is a broad idea, 3 is working on it, 4 is strong, and 5 is definitely. So I'm going to go through this with you right now. And I think that this is something that's pretty simple. If you know the product that you're already working on and you already have an idea of your audience, you should really be able to just write this down, just grab a piece of paper. And if you wanted to print it out and use that later, we definitely invite you to do that. But I think it's not as time necessary, right? So who's your audience? Do you clearly know who your ideal customer or user is? Do you have people already interested or waiting to buy? So you can give a little sentence here, but the real important piece is where you think you are. So the answer is either no, I don't. I have a broad idea. I'm still working on it. I strongly connect, and I definitely know who your ideal customer is. Then the next one is proof. Do you have measurable results, happy customers, or evidence that your idea works? Now, this is really important. This is the first stage that we would call an MVP, minimum viable product. So this is something that you can sell, that you can share, that someone can interact with, someone can use, someone can beta test. And with that, that's how you start to find out, is this something that is viable? Does it actually work? You can ask questions like, do people want it? You can start to flesh out like what additional features would make it better. And this is just an amazing process. I've done this a couple of times and I actually love doing this with startup companies. So you would put as many details as you want there and then rate yourself. Do you feel that you have a minimum viable project? And one of the things I think a lot of startups get tripped up on is it's not ready yet. And so you don't start sharing it and you don't start getting feedback. And it's like you're waiting for that perfect product. And it's so important that you do get out there. And you could actually be at this MVP stage for a short amount of time or a long amount of time, depending on your internal process for getting it to that next level. The next one would be clarity. So can you explain what you do and what it matters in one short sentence? And we just kind of experienced that with Stacey, and that's something that we're going to continue to work on to try to really get succinct, because that is building on these other pieces, right? Your audience, your proof, that's your ability to then communicate your readiness. And then the next one is visibility. So can people actually find what you're creating and who you are and what you're offering and understand it? And you need to have some kind of presence out online. And I know there's many people who still have an egghead for their LinkedIn profile, which I call it that because you go there and there's no picture, but it's essential now. I think that's, something that you, at the very least, you need to have some type of presence. And so Jordan and I felt that that was really important. And so we're including that in this activity for us in this workshop. So we want to get you there. And then the last piece is, for growing and scaling, you have to have a system. And it says, do you have repeatable ways to run and grow your business? And that's something that, we kind of do on the fly, or we look back and we say, oh my gosh, now it's time to create SOPs, the standard operating procedures. And again, I'll tell you, as somebody who has created so many companies, if you create these systems as you grow, you will be thanking yourself, because you can always modify them later. But as soon as you have something that's working, you got to get it down. So it could be in a visual flow sheet, it could be in steps, but it's always that idea is, if I am taken out of the process for whatever reason, someone else could step right in and start doing it. Or if someone else in a particular role is taken out of the process, we can quickly replace that team member's responsibilities by just giving them, the process. So I just received my project manager professional certification 2 years ago. And that was an amazing addition to the skills that I have, because I'm always spinning so many plates. And that's what all of us do, especially as startups. It's all hands on deck, and you're doing so many things that you didn't even know that you could do. So you're an accountant, a lawyer, a tech person, just a million things. And it wasn't until I learned, the value of having these repeatable processes and documentation that I can now see that, wow, I could have been so much more successful earlier on if I had had this type of mentality. And so we're trying to give that to you now, is do it, even though it might not be your innate, way of doing things, but you will thank yourself later, and your future team will thank you, because you've been doing it so well. Now you want someone else to be able to step in for you. They need to be able to see those processes. Okay, so you're going to add all of that up. And then when you scroll down here, This is going to give you some scores, which we love. And based on your scores, it's going to tell you where you are on this continuum. So I think that's a great start for us. And then, let's see, we're going to come back to, there we go. So we are going to start to work on the high impact statement to get you there. And I'm going to hand it back to Jordan to lead us through this.
All right. So this is one of my favorite to be able to represent this just quickly because of the fact that you're so passionate and you're so close to this idea and what you've built, and being able to get that across the bridge to the other side, that's where this high impact statement will become this framework. And what this will do and activate is you being able to have that reference point just to continue referencing back in an inning setting. Because if what happens is then you're not having to recreate the wheel every time. You have a framework that becomes just like in your routine. So this will just feel so much better when you're going to different spaces. It could be investors, or it could be future partners, or whoever it may be. And it will allow you to be able to have the clarity that you need in order to bridge to the other side, to the audience that you're trying to connect to. So why does this matter? One of the biggest things about having this positioning is the fact that when you get so clear with your messaging, it's not only you going out and being able to speak about what you've built, but it's other people can be able to go out and speak about what you do. So your message is able to travel faster because people say, oh, Stacy, I get exactly what it is you do. I have a referral for you, right? Or, oh, there's an event that I just went to, you need to go next year, right? So it allows you to then get right into the right rooms even quicker and get in front of people even quicker, not only just from the work that you're doing every day, but also too through the work that people are doing behind the scenes on behalf of you. So that's one of the biggest reasons that for the high impact statement of why it's so valuable. This is what we're going to take you through, right? So right now, we shared our example. It's everyone. We want to make sure that no one's excluded with the swimwear, right? And that is a lot of what we find founders start with, right? We're in building for disability community. We don't want to exclude anyone, right? But what I will say is no one said you were going to exclude anyone, but in order to be able to help those that you want to be able to help, which is everyone, you have to position yourself so clearly to be able to get the funding you need, get the partners to give back even more. So we'll start here. So I want you to think about your product service offering as we go through this. So our product service helps people who, right? So think about that one. What would you say right now? So we're starting all the way from the bottom. I'll give you a few seconds. So I'm thinking of our example. Our product helps people who struggle to find adaptive athletic gear. Let's see, another example could be, if I'm thinking about healthcare, our service helps people who need support navigating healthcare systems. So this, don't even worry about it. You don't have to perfect. It's a simple starting point because we're going to take you all the way to the top. All right, so the next piece is interested groups. All right, so now we're starting to get a little bit more specific. So we're going from everyone to the people who already are leaning in on something that we're offering. The ones who are naturally like, hey, oh, I need to hear more about what it is you're talking about. So these groups could look like maybe they care about the issue that you're addressing. Maybe they follow related conversations, right? Think of, it could be at a conference, right? Those could be people that are following related conversations. On LinkedIn, maybe there's a tag of something that is related to what you're solving. So the example would be, it's especially helpful for people who care about. So think about what it is you have. For our product, we would say it's especially helpful for people who care about improving accessibility in sports. So healthcare example, maybe it's especially helpful for people who care about managing chronic pain without medication. Another one for people who care about inclusive hiring practices. All right, so we're narrowing our focus without locking into a specific audience yet. All right, we're getting more specific. So you've already identified the broad group, the people who care. Now we're going in a little bit more for even more specific. So instead of people who care about accessibility, you might say, for our example, would be more specifically, it's for adaptive swimming coaches who struggle to find performance gear that fits their athletes' needs. Now that is, we're really narrowing it down. Okay, another one would be, let's see, instead of like people who care about nutrition, maybe you would say more specifically, it's for busy parents who want healthy meals but don't have time to cook. You see how we're getting so specific, and what that is enacting in your, enabling in your audience is like, oh, that's me. I just actually, if I'm thinking about this, this is me. So if you have this solution, let me know. So really it allows people to see themselves in the audience now versus it being everyone. All right, another one, people who care about workplace inclusion. Instead of that, maybe it's more specifically, it's for HR leaders who want tools that reduce bias in hiring. All right, so we're seeing the pattern and we're getting more specific. Okay, so we are climbing to the top now. So we are at the ideal audience now. So this is the moment that's where your message is starting to become fundable, because you're not talking to everyone you could help. You're talking to the people you're able to help right now. So think of, let's say when I think of our example, our ideal audience is adaptive sports organizations. So I'm getting specific about the type of person or organization who want to, now I'm going to state the goal. So for speech pathologists, we have the SOAP, the subjective, objective assessment, and the P. What was the P, May, again? I haven't done direct therapy in a little bit, but this is good because it allows you to have a reference point. For anyone else, goals, just think of the goals you're setting. So this is where it goes. So our ideal audience is adaptive sports organizations who want to expand access for female Paralympic athletes. So your ideal audience is really honing in for someone to be able to know exactly what it is. Another example may be our ideal audience is school districts who want to improve reading outcomes using inclusive AI tools. All right, so do you hear the pattern? So each one is identifying a very specific type of person or organization, and then you're actively working towards a specific goal. All right, so this is the final example of the ideal audience, which is we help female Paralympian athletes and sports organizations investing in accessibility, improve performance and inclusion through adaptive swimwear. This would feel like a connector immediately, right? It's either, this isn't to say, hey, like you go out there, you tell your message, everyone's like, hey, sign me up. But what it is to say is people can say immediately, like, oh no, this isn't like a good fit, but I know so-and-so, or it just may not be a good fit, and that's okay. But there are people who say, hey, I need this right now. So this is what that allows when you get so specific about your audience.
All right. So hopefully that was helpful and that showed you, how we can get really white hot clear, and you can do this for a number of different audiences and use them in different situations for different marketing, but it really gets you really, really focused. Now we're going to talk about clarity. And this is where you take everything that you know about what you do and you learn how to say it in a way that they immediately get it, right? So before we were identifying our audience, now we're going to really get into this. Again, we're starting at the bottom of the ladder. So we're kind of confusing to the person we're talking to. We're not confused. We know we've got something amazing. We just need to figure out how to communicate this, right? But we make or do or create. And so, go ahead and say what you do. I don't have my example here, but we make accessible clothing, I think is mine. And then, so now we're going to move up to the concept. And so we're going to say we create, and then we have inclusive sportswear for women. And it's getting better, right? We're getting a little bit closer to clarity. Now we're at the being very clear level, right? So we help female Paralympian athletes improve comfort and performance in the water. Who doesn't want to do that? Getting super focused and also focused on what is the benefit for them. And that's a huge piece of marketing, the what's in it for me. I actually struggle about that a lot because I'm always trying to give them these features. It does this, it does this, it does this, versus it's going to make your life easier. You're going to be able to do this quicker, faster, stronger. And that's what we need to communicate. And then the best one is, so we help the audience, and how do we do it? So now this is a high impact, right? So we help female Paralympian athletes and sport organizations investing in accessibility, that's a very specific group, improve performance and inclusion through adaptive swimwear technology. So for what we're looking for are very, very specific types of people. We're looking for athletes and sports organizations. We just said it. So if you're in, some type of setting, you can change those targets based on that networking group or the setting that you're in or the person that you're talking to. So like if I was talking to someone who's in special education and I'm looking for somebody who's on the board, I'm looking for board members who can assist me to open doors. Then they go, ooh, okay, I know exactly who you mean. That's Bob. I need to connect you. And so some of the stuff is you getting your mind to wrap around it so that you can edit it for when you need it. All right, so here's the whole thing. We started with, we make things more accessible for everyone. That's great. Good for you. Then we're getting closer. We create inclusive sportswear for women. All right, so now we know at least we're talking about women and we're talking about sportswear. Now we design adaptive swimwear for women athletes with disabilities. Ooh, we were just getting interesting. And now we help female Paralympian athletes, that's the cream of the crop, and sports organizations, ooh, we're going big, investing in accessibility to improve performance and inclusion through adaptive swimwear, sorry. So it's long, but it is right to the point. All right, So at this point, I'm going to open up, and we've had Stacy here kind of going through it, and I know you did a great job of coming out and sharing. We just want to start with you and say, first of all, like, what do you think of this? I know that you've been kind of going through the writing process. What's your feedback?
Yeah, I wrote down all this stuff. And honestly, like I've learned this before because I took, Amy Porterfield's course and I've
Yes, I
listened
love
to,
her. Who doesn't love her, right?
right? I've listened to a lot of business people. So I have been through this process many, many times. But it is so easy, especially, ADHD brain, like it's so easy to have the shiny object and lose sight of this. And I mean, even like I talk about this mindset, even in our framework, it's so easy to let our biases slip back in and do the old way. And so just walking through this again is so helpful because, especially in our field, I feel like we care so much. We care so much. We want to help so many. But as I learned from Amy, when you focus on one, you still get the masses, but it's so hard to like keep going back to that, right? Because your passion wants to help so many. But I've seen it myself. And so why my brain doesn't like believe it yet, I don't know. Because I've seen like I'll focus on just therapists, but then I get parents and I get other providers and schools. So it does work to hyper focus on one thing. You still do end up helping everyone, but it does make your message clear. And so I loved it. It's great because especially with our shift of our focus on assessments, it still brought me back because I'm like, okay, I could focus on every therapist out there, but I think dwindling it down to school staff is so beneficial because that's where we see a giant population, right? Our kids all go to school. They only might see one outside therapist, but they all go to school. There's lots of school staff. So I'm like, if we really want to make a big impact, just focusing on school staff, I think would be good. So that was super helpful.
Excellent. Okay, so we have more support for you. Jordan and I both are very into learning how to incorporate AI into everything that we're doing. And
Yeah.
if you haven't started yet, we highly recommend that you start dabbling because it is here to stay. And you don't need to be an expert. This is like Google. I know years ago I was like, oh my God, how do you use this? And I actually had to show people how to Google. And AI is definitely that same pathway where you have to learn how to use it. But I think eventually people will not be doing Google. I think we're all going to be moving over to this interactive AI type of software. And there are amazing ways that you can use it for very, very highly specific and focused projects that you're doing. So we created a custom GPT for you, and definitely you need to use it through ChatGPT. You do not need to have a paid account. But if you go to your resource, so I'm going to click on here again, and we're going to scroll over here to the left. We're going to open up those tabs, and you'll see the custom GPT high impact positioning. And I was down at the bottom, so let me go back to the top. So that starts you out here, and this kind of walks you through. So you're going to be clicking on a link, and then it's literally going to walk you step by step to creating this this statement. And we're so excited for you. It's definitely to help you do your audience, your clarity, your impact. We walk through the whole why it matters. And then down here is the link, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if you started doing your statements so far and answering the questions, that's fantastic because you're going to use that to build this in. So on your left, if I close all of this out, all right, once you open it up, this is what it should look like. And then I'm going to close that out so we can just focus on this main working screen. So you have the high impact positioning builder, helps users connect what they do to who it's for to form a concise, memorable, fundable statement. And so you can do two options. You can start to work on your audience, or if you already have that messaging and you're ready to come back after you do your audience, then you clarify your message. So I'm just going to show you, if you start on this quick start, it's going to, and it knows me, so it'll probably say my name. It's thinking. There we go. Oh, didn't say my name this time, but okay, so we're going to kick it off. The first thing it says, who do you help in the widest sense? Complete this thought in your own words. My product services help people who. I'm going to open this up so you can see that. So that's the rest of the screen there. So who, where, swimwear. I mean, that's in its broadest sense, right? So let's just see what it does there. So you can, really start at the beginning, and we've already designed this to help you to continue to, funnel in. And so it says, yeah, that's a great start, right? Now, for them, who especially cares about something specific? And so now it's going to continue to prompt you to answer these questions. And we're just really hoping that this will be a good addition to what you're already working on. As Jordan and I are always saying, like the technology is fantastic, but your human interaction and your problem solving and your added component is the most important piece. So this is just a tool for you guys to use. So then here's the homework. So you're going to be going in and working on that fundable readiness, which is the checklist, and being really honest of where you are. And then the second one is building your high impact positioning statement. Now, in that Google Doc, there are some other areas. Let me just pop back really quickly to show you that we have coming the replays and resources and the transcripts. Let me see how I get that in there. Transcripts will be coming afterwards. And so as we have more resources for you, we'll put it in here. So for tomorrow, you'll see those tomorrow. But this should give you everything that you need to get going for tonight's homework. So it brings me back to, that's it for today. Stacy, do you have any questions before we go?
No, that's super helpful.
Okay, I'll let Jordan
Yeah.
sum it up too.
Yeah, I'm just so excited because I already feel the energy. Even Stacy, when you mentioned school staff, that's so specific. That's an audience. And I'm excited too because what this is going to be able to enable is the fact that you're going to start seeing patterns, because you're going to be talking to school staff. They may have different messaging that they're providing, and you're going to start hearing similar things in different ways. And what that allows you to do is be able to really just hone in on what exactly it is that would be valuable to them. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about this is that it's enabling you to be able to connect with your audience, because when we build something, it is close to us, it is our baby, and we want to let everyone know all of the amazing features we added, the different thought processes we had, who we had in mind when we created this, or maybe it's even our own experience. But the best part about this is you are actually looking at it from an audience, right? You're connecting to your audience in order to be able to connect back to what it is that they may value, because it may not be the features that are so close to us, or even sometimes our story. It may be a beautiful story, but it may not be the connector to get them over the bridge to be a believer. So we're excited about what you all are going to be able to do in these different conversations, and to be able to have these conversations with any audience that you're talking to. So, you'll have that framework, and it will be able to go with you. So
Excellent. All right, so please try to work on those pieces for yourself tomorrow, because that'll help you to build on the next step. And we're going to be working on your LinkedIn profile. All right, we'll see you all tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank
see you
you.
tomorrow.
Bye-bye.